And like for me, even though I've had a strong intuition from young and I could just sense things and feel when people are off and places that I shouldn't be, all of these things, even though I felt that, it doesn't mean that I haven't made impulsive decisions that I've regretted and not felt good about after. So it's like, but I had to dip my hand in the fire and learn those lessons to know not to do them again. And even though I'm on this healing journey and I'm refraining from doing anything impulsive, so it's like we can feel our intuition, but sometimes our fear, anxiety, limiting beliefs, all of these things our impulse will make us think that it's our intuition, but really it's all these other factors that are playing. Like, for example, for me, I kept and keep sometimes going back and forth with whether I stay in Spain or go back to what was comfortable and known in Toronto. And every time I feel that impulsive decision to go back and I really want to pack my suitcase and go. So instead of distracting my mind from it and just making the impulsive decision to go back and then regretting it after, I decide, okay, I'm going to make a pros and cons list and weigh out which place is better, right? And then I'll start silent meditation, basically lying down, staring at the wall or sitting outside in the sun, and start thinking about like really trying to hear my intuition, use my discernment to say, is that really the best choice? Or have patience and have faith that things will work out here. So what keeps me here is that I'm like, no, I can't give up. This was my dream. This is what I want. I want this peaceful, better life for me and my kids. So I keep staying because I know there I would just be facing more challenges that I don't want to go through. I just want to stay somewhere where I feel peace at the moment. I'm not saying that I'll never go back, maybe later on, but right now it's not meant for me to go back. However, another thing that I want to mention is that, so I always would believe that if the creator, if my intuition, if my highest self wants me somewhere, it's going to make everything align, and it's not going to be quote unquote easy, but they're going to make everything align for me to go. Like when I came here, it made everything align for me to come here and for me to stay. However, when I wanted to go back in September, the creator made everything possible that I could have gone back and I would have had a home and everything would have been fine if I decided to go back. So it's like when you're really focused on manifestation and being on your abundant timeline and focusing on what you want and envisioning it, then, and you just say something out in the universe, negative or positive, it will come into fruition. And maybe this is like not even that, like we're all strong manifestors. We all say words and it creates our reality. It comes into existence. So whether it's positive or negative, if you keep thinking about something, if you keep speaking into existence, then it will come true because that's what the universe thinks you want, so it's going to give that to you. So basically my point is that September, when I felt like, okay, I'm going to go home. I made my decision, I'm going to go home, and everything was possible for me to go back. So because I was thinking about it constantly for like months, I kept having this indecision of going back and forth, that when I finally, quote unquote, made up my mind that, okay, I'm going to go back, I'm going to deal with it, I'm ready to go back. Everything aligned for me to go back. But then I was like, no, I can't make the decision yet. I need to sleep on it. When I slept on it and I woke up, my intuition and myself said, I can't give up yet. It's not time for me to go back. And I made the decision not to. So that's why it's like we really have to train our intuition and listen to our intuition and know what's fear-based and all these other thoughts, because of the fact that the universe will give us whatever we want. If it's negative or positive, the universe will make a way for it to happen because we're constantly speaking that into our reality. We're energetic beings. We create our own reality. So that's why I could have said that, oh, well, the universe wants me to go back, so it's meant for me to go back. He just made that happen because I was speaking into existence nonstop. So he's like, okay, if that's what you want, then I'll send you back. But then I had to sleep on it and use my intuition and like feel calm with my decision and be like, question myself. And myself said, no, don't go back. It's not time for you to go back. You're going to be escaping from your abundant timeline and going back to a previous timeline. So that's how I made the decision not to go. Even like what's meant to be will be is hard for me to accept as well, because I'm starting to come to terms with believing some aspects of it, but there's other aspects of it that I question. Socrates questioning everything. But for example, if I decide to make that decision to go back to Toronto, then what's meant to be will be like, or was that just a fear-based decision that's taking me away from my abundant timeline, and now I'm creating another reality in that situation. But to a degree, that could kind of be true as well in my situation, because I didn't go back to Toronto. So what's meant to be will be. It was meant for me to stay here. It was meant for me to have this internal struggle and then tap into my intuition and say, no, I'm not doing it. To pass that test to myself that I'm stronger, that I can hear my intuition, that I can do this, that I'm not the old version of me no more. I am this newer version that can tackle these challenges in a new place, that I don't know the language, and do this. But when I first came to Spain and left Spain because my marriage didn't work out, I got that intuitive nudge that you need to go. It was a decision, and it felt impulsive, but it was a decision that I was like, no, I need to go back. And I went back and I met these great connections when I was back there. And then after I told you everything kind of fell apart, it was meant for me to come back. So it's like what's meant to be will be is kind of true, because I was meant to go back and I was meant to come back. So even though divine timing is in place and the universe will put people into your life that are meant to come into your life at the exact timing, we still have free will over the choices that we make. And we can either prolong ourselves from being our abundant timeline or stay in our abundant timeline. So based on the healing, the trauma, all these things that are that we work through, whether we choose to work through them or not, matters on what timeline we'll stick on. So what's meant to be will be based on your choices. So we all have a choice on which timeline we stay on our abundant timeline, or get further and further away from that. And what's meant to be will be that when we're on a toxic timeline that's not serving us, that's not causing us to grow, that's not healing our trauma, then we'll continuously not feel comfortable in that environment. Our body will reject it, our mind will reject it, our soul is rejecting it. And our intuition will give us these nudges that we need to get out of that toxic situation. So when we go back onto that abundant timeline and we start healing everything and we start making better decisions and all of these things, and we choose not to deviate from our path, even if in some other areas we deviate and we don't realize we're deviating, our intuition will tell us, hey, that wasn't a good decision. This is what you need to change. So when we start going on our abundant timeline, we'll start actually listening to our intuition. Our intuition's always yelling at us whether we're not on that timeline or not. It's just whether we choose to listen to it or not. So we have free will in terms of what timeline we choose to be on, whether we choose to stay on that timeline that's not serving us and that's not helping us grow, and how long we decide to stay on that, and if we completely ignore our intuition, or if we go back to our abundant timeline and grow and change and all these things. So the Creator gave us free will to choose what timeline we're going to be on, and there'll be things that come into play that are meant to be.